This Cincinnati Reds lineup was not built to carry the ball club.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome in. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. Thanks for being an everydayer, and thanks for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. A little bit later in today's show, we're going to talk about what exactly has gone on in the city of Cincinnati and its baseball club since Elly De La Cruz went on the IL. We're going to talk here in a few minutes also about Blake Dunn, and is he in fact the answer at the leadoff position, or is there at least another candidate? We're going to talk about that here in just a couple minutes, but where we are going to begin is with a conversation about this Cincinnati Reds lineup that clearly wasn't designed to be the main event with the Cincinnati Reds team. This team was built for strong pitching. It was built allegedly to have an actual major league bullpen, and then it was built to have a lineup that could score a few runs so that pitching staff could get wins. It has not worked out that way, Jeff. It started falling apart before they ever broke camp. They lost 2 starting pitchers before they ever got to Cincinnati out of Goodyear. The bullpen seemed like it was going to not only deliver, but overachieve. We saw that in the month of April, and then it turned to May 1st on your calendars at home, and everything fell apart. And that left so much pressure on this lineup to try and carry it all. And I think it's really exposed a lot of chinks in the armor.
Yeah, this team was meant to be pitching first, and it doesn't have the ability to do the other thing where it's lineup first. This lineup is very top heavy, and that's why we want to talk a little bit about what it's looked like without its best hitter later on in the show. But as a whole, there's a systemic problem with it, because as the season has gone along, and last night's loss to the San Diego Padres is no exception, as embarrassing as it was to watch the field, to watch Sal Stewart and TJ Antone kick around bunts for like 10 minutes. That was all set up by the fact that they had so many base runners and they had 2 runs to show for it, because this team is horrible with runners in scoring position, Steve. There are no teams below them when it comes to batting average with runners in scoring position. They hit 218 as a team. You figure a guy gets on second or third, you should be putting pressure on the pitcher. It is the other way around. Opposing pitchers relax when the Reds get guys on second and third, because for some reason the Reds hitters get all tense and they strike out a whole bunch and they hit ground balls a lot, and none of it works because they are also the fifth lowest when it comes to RBIs with runners in scoring position. It doesn't work. They just don't hit when they need to the most. And there's only a couple of guys that you can really point to. It's like, okay, is this guy helping out? Well, yeah, but the problem is he's getting on base. Sal Stewart, J.J. Bleday, Elly De La Cruz are your 3 best hitters with runners in scoring position. Dane Meyer is actually pretty solid as well. He just has seen far less opportunities than those 3 guys. The problem is J.J. Bleday, Sal Stewart, Elly De La Cruz get hits with runners in scoring position, and then they're on base, and boom, we're done. That's it. Wrap it up, because nobody else in this lineup is getting them in.
Yeah. I also want to just take a side note, Jeff, that this is a cumulative total. This is, of course, how the Reds have performed this season. They have made attempts, especially over the last 4 to 5 weeks, to try and make adjustments to this lineup. A big part of the problem is it was too little too late, I think, as far as pivoting from certain players, as far as making adjustments. Something's got to give. And I don't know that you can go out. They don't have enough things to trade to fix all the problems that there are right now. You know, you're not going to go out and get enough players that are going to be able to hit. You're not going to be able certainly to go out and get guys that are going to be able to be everyday players and give you better production in the mid to bottom half of this lineup. And go out and address the pitching if you've got to go out and do that, or go out and get a bullpen arm if you got to go out and do that. There's just not enough parts to go around. So, you have to hope for guys to get better, hope for guys to improve. And I don't know that the bottom half of this lineup is ever going to be in a position this season to really, there'll be bursts. We've seen it at times, right? Matt McLain and Tyler Stevenson homer back to back, and McLain has a 2-homer day a couple days ago. We'll see bursts like that. We'll see one-offs. But we're not going to see, I think, consistent performance from the bottom of the lineup. And with Elly out, and we're going to get to that a little bit later, it has really just been kind of the death nail of this team. The lineup being unable to carry the team is one thing. But the lineup has, in fact, had the Reds in some games. And I think that's what's things so frustrating. They've demonstrated ability to do this, to at least keep the Reds within a run or two. And then the pitching comes along, and it being bad also, it's just all downhill from there. So, I'm going to continue to pull for these guys at the top that are getting it done. But, one or two more guys, if one or two more guys could just consistently, and that's the key, consistently go. If Matt McLain's really figured it out, you saw the at bat where he clearly had a better understanding of the strike zone than the home plate umpire. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that was hilarious.
Three consecutive, things happened in threes last night. Matt McLain gets 3 consecutive ABSs. The San Diego Padres reached safely on, God help us, 3 consecutive bunt attempts. That just seems to be, if you were in Vegas, I hope you bet it on 3, because that was what was coming up yesterday. But, clearly Matt McLain has had a little switch flip in the last 2 or 3 days. Hopefully that holds, because he's seeing the ball well. And when you see the ball well, good things happen. So, is he the guy? Could he be a difference maker? Because now suddenly, instead of the top 3 to 4 guys being able to go all the time, now you've got the top 4 to 5 guys going. And if you get one more dude after that, now it's a different conversation. If 6 of your 9 are consistently going, you can kind of be relied upon. You can start to see a thing turn around. But there's a lot of squinting there, Jeff. That's a lot of squinting and turning your head sideways to see something positive.
And that's been the huge problem with the lineup as a whole, because I'm not saying that the lineup, I feel like there's a lot of folks that watch this team and they say, boy, this lineup's horrible. This lineup's not horrible. This lineup is doing exactly what it was meant to do, to score just enough for the pitching. The problem is, when the pitching falters, this lineup cannot go back to the drawing board and pick things up again. Like, it feels like they get a certain amount of runs a game, and we just haven't seen this rally Reds. Like, I feel like every so often they have a late game comeback, usually about once every 2 weeks. And we hear John Sadak say, boy, it's great to see the Rally Reds back again. It's because he's trying to will this into existence, because it just doesn't happen that much. Like, we don't see them get the clutch hits in late in the ball game because of situations like this. And there's 2 different guys that I look at specifically. Like, yes, the bottom of the lineup is it's a hard thing to kind of fix with this runners in scoring position, but there's 2 things. First one is leadoff, which I definitely want to dissect a lot more here in a few minutes. But the second one's Eugenio Suarez. Eugenio Suarez has not been as advertised. He is not hitting home runs. And if he's not hitting home runs, what else does he provide the Reds? Because he is one of the worst culprits with runners in scoring position this year, Steve. Right now, this season, Gino slashing 184, 289, 342. He has 1 home run with runners in scoring position right now. That is just not going to cut it, no matter how you slice this lineup up. Like, there's been some other guys step up in his stead, but he needs to be in that top 3. Like, it should be Elly, Sal, Gino. We're talking about Elly, Sal, and JJ. That's not what I thought we were going to be doing in February.
Yeah, nobody had that on their bingo cards, I don't think. Yeah, Gino has been, not as advertised, and there's still time for him to fix it. If he can get going here semi-soon, he could still get to 30 home runs this season. And that's really, we talked about, 49-50 would be amazing. Could he do it? Well, he's done it before. Yeah. He could do it again. He could hit those things. But we also said it's in the archives if you want to go find it. We also said it was much more realistic to think of him as a 30 home run guy. And if he gets in that neighborhood, is the signing still successful? I think so. I think 30 home runs is kind of a good benchmark for what Eugenio Suarez was brought in here to do. I'm not ready to call it a failed experiment yet, but man, has he started to make you ask the questions of what is going on here. Between how he's performed, the injury, him and Tito having dueling answers to the Cincinnati Reds beat writers about what's going on, with Tito saying it was the WBC and Gino immediately being like, no, it was not the WBC. Things like that. There's a lot of, dissension in the air, and I hope that doesn't become a thing. I hope that this is just a little blip and that Gino gets going. A 2 home run weekend from Eugenio Suarez, and it immediately changes the conversation a little bit. So that's kind of what we need to see. We need to see Gino, either in the next 2 games in San Diego or when the Reds come home and everybody's back in Cincinnati. June in Cincinnati, we know how the ball performs in the air. It'd be a great opportunity for Gino to get going.
He's a guy that I'm watching closely, that if he starts going, then the turbines of belief, I believe, will start to turn. Again, another guy that could get those turbines going is Blake Dunn, because as of right now, he is the best option that the Reds have at the leadoff spot. Talking about West Coast ball games reminds me that the perfect solution to your sweet tooth craving is 5 Hour Energy, because I don't know if you're like me or not and you watch some late night Reds and you get a little bit snacky and maybe start reaching for some cookies, maybe some pretzels. Yeah, all of that last night and more. But 5 Hour Energy really helps you curb that sweet craving, because they've got all these great flavors with tasty caffeine boost and 0 sugar, just like the cotton candy flavor that they got. I mean, cotton candy 5 Hour Energy shots bring that nostalgic flavor back in this very nice, healthy package for you. You can take it on the road with you, keep it in your pocket. It goes with you portably everywhere you are. Or if you're just sitting at home, nice little tasty caffeine boost with 0 sugar and that classic cotton candy taste that you remember. It's become my go-to when I want something sweet without going overboard. Bring on the sweetness with cotton candy 5 Hour Energy shots today. They're available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. And the Reds are home this weekend against the Arizona Diamondbacks for their only home series in June. It's crazy to think. Weird scheduling? Yes. But you can get into the ball games with Game Time every single day. I use Game Time all the time. Steve uses Game Time all the time. Whether it's Reds games or if we're on the road going to other events, Game Time has you covered. They show you the prices all up front. That way you don't get surprised with this fee or that tax in the cart whenever you add the tickets and you go to pay and you're like, whoa, that's not a deal. Game Time shows you the whole deal, and they show you your view from your seats so that everywhere you go, you have confidence knowing that you're getting the right ticket. Game Time is my go-to app to get into any Reds game, and it's going to be a great tool for you this weekend with the Reds hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. And hey, the Mets are coming to town next week too. Maybe the Reds can beat one of those teams. And you can see it live using Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your day. And whether you're first listen, second listen, however many listens, thank you so much. And thank you for helping us make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. You can take it up a notch with Locked On Reds. Join our Locked On Reds Everydayer Club by going to lockedonreds.supercast.com or just click the link down in the description below. $5 a month, $50 for the whole year. Ad-free feed. You don't hear any ads at all. You just hear us talking Reds, and you get a group chat on the Discord, and so much more. All right, Steve, when it comes to this lineup, the runners in scoring position thing has been a massive problem. But another problem has been the leadoff spot, because TJ Friedl was penciled in as the leadoff hitter 2 years ago. and they basically said he's going to be our leadoff hitter. And they did not look for anyone else. There was never any competition brought in. There was never anyone else that you really thought, like, I kind of thought maybe Elly De La Cruz deserved a look there, but I understand why now, because when he's on base, there's nobody to hit him in. So you need somebody on base when Elly's at the plate. And it feels like Blake Dunn is starting to take that mantle. We have 100 plate appearances now of evidence in this season of Blake Dunn. And there are some interesting numbers that at least point to him sticking in this spot. But I want to know, like, are you buying into this? Because I have a hard time fully accepting it, but it's kind of like there's no better option right now either.
You know, us not buying into Blake Dunn, that's an us problem. I don't think it's a Blake Dunn problem. I think we're just getting jaded around here a little bit, because
I think
you look at what he's done. You know, 100 plate appearances. He's a 95 official at bats. Tonight's game will get him right at about 100 at bats, give or take an at bat or two. So you look at what he's done on the 2026 season. Not bad. You know, 295 batting average, 337 on base percentage, right? Translates to an OPS of 758. That's where he's at right now as we're recording. The last week's worth of games, Jeff, that batting average is 323. That on-base percentage is 323. He's getting it done. He's slugging .452 in the last week with a home run, some RBIs. Am I a believer in Blake Dunn? I'm getting there. I think that, one, there's certainly not a better option right now. There is nobody else on this team that I'm batting in that position. There is nobody knocking around the farm in Louisville that I'm bringing up that can bat in that position. So this is his job right now. And the fact that he's embraced it and he's performing well, you know, it leaves us in a position where we just need to root for him to continue to do what he's doing right now. This is the Blake Dunn I think the Reds envisioned when they started talking about him over 2 seasons ago, as he was coming up in the minor leagues. A guy that wasn't going to bring you a lot of power, that had the potential to be a contact dude. Did they envision him as a leadoff hitter? I'm not sure that's where their mindset was, but I think Blake Dunn is creating a space for himself where he can be around for several seasons in this role and have some success. He's not going to be a 300 guy all the time, but I think he can be successful.
I feel like he is TJ Friedl, because like TJ Friedl wasn't on any prospect list. Nobody was really like that excited about him outside of our friend Doug Gray over at RedsMinorLeagues.com. I remember him talking about TJ Friedl a little bit back in the day, just being like, hey, watch out for this guy. I was like, okay, fine. Blake Dunn was a guy that Tom Nichols once told me about and was just like, dude, watch this guy. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, he's not on any prospect list, but I'll keep an eye on him. And this is who he is. Like, he is a gamer. He hustles. He's fast. And I think he's TJ Friedl, but he's more athletic. Like, I think he's faster than TJ Friedl for sure, but he's also flashed a little bit of power. He got a couple of homers so far this season. I don't think that you're ever expecting him to hit like 20 homers, but could he give you 10? Sure. And if he's giving you 10 with getting on base at least a third of the time, if not, 35, 36% of the time, then we really are talking about a legitimate leadoff guy for this team, because there's just not been that consistent on-base dude at any other point that you're like, okay, we can replace our leadoff spot with this guy, because I feel like Blake Dunn also has this threat. And he is I thought about this the other day whenever he beat out a ground ball to shortstop, and, the kind of slow effort by the St. Louis shortstop to throw the ball to first base, and he beats out the throw. I was just thinking, man, I think that there's a little bit of new age leadoff in him, in that he can be an on-base machine, but there's also that old school leadoff and that Dusty Baker leadoff of, well, he's fast, so he's got to lead off, right? Like, he fits all of those boxes right now. And I think that for me, you're right. Jaded is a word, because we just feel as though Nick Krall has failed to address this outfield time and time and time again. And so for Blake Dunn to come up here and kind of, save his keister a little bit, it's like, all right, Blake Dunn's here. And we don't want Nick Krall to get enamored with the fact that now he has a center fielder that has a leadoff hitter. He's only had 100 plate appearances, but I'm also on the optimistic side of things thinking, okay, we've seen a lot of good stuff from it. And by the way, the glove is awesome.
Mm-hmm. And assuming health, he's playing center field and leading off the rest of the season. So we're going to know a lot more about Blake Dunn come the end of September than we do right now. But all indications are that Blake Dunn at least is going to be serviceable in this spot. And given the fact that he is taking over for a TJ Friedel that simply forgot how to hit, and in some cases forgot how to just do any of the things that he was brought in to do.
And hasn't yet remembered down in Louisville either.
No, and it's not looking good. You know, you and I were talking yesterday in show prep about TJ's numbers in Louisville since he got there, and he might be done. And that's sad. I don't know, baseball, what a crazy sport this is that, just one day you wake up and it's gone like that. And it's just mind boggling. But Blake Dunn, he might not be the answer, but he is an answer, and he's the answer the Reds have right now. Listen, Jeff, as one would imagine, things have not gone very well since Elly De La Cruz was injured. And spoiler alert, they really need him to come back. This team has clearly underperformed since Elly went on the IL, and we're going to talk about that coming up next.
Hey, it's Mike and John from Locked On Angels. We wanted to talk to you about something that's important, and that's your family.
I've been married a few years now, and my wife and I have a 1-year-old, and we're always thinking about his future. Who's he going to become? How can we help? In what ways can we make sure his future is secure?
Yeah, I'm in a different season. I'm married. I have 3 young adult kids, and lately I've been thinking a lot about how to make sure my family's taken care of in the long term.
This is why life insurance matters, not because it solves everything, but because it helps provide financial security for the people you love the most.
And that's where Ethos comes in. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and even get same-day coverage, and there's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions online, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month.
So take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. That's ethos.com/lockedonmlb.
Get up to $3 million in coverage in as little as 10 minutes at ethos.com/lockedonmlb. Application times may vary. Rates may vary.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, we are on every single audio podcasting platform that's out there. If you find one we're not on and you need us to be there, message Jeff. He can probably make that happen for you. That's also where the Everydayer Club lives, $5 a month, $50 a year, ad-free Locked On Reds in the audio feeds. All right, Jeff, spoiler alert, surprise, shockingly, the Reds without Elly are not very good.
No, their lineup has struggled quite a lot. And ever since he went down, his final game was May 31st. And, hopefully, in a couple of days, he'll get a good report from his MRI on his hamstring, and we'll see him coming back here soon. But in the 7 games that have happened since then, this lineup has not been good. The on-base percentage
is that it?
Yeah,
it feels like it's been 4 years since we've seen Elly De La Cruz. It's been awful. 7 games. I think you counted wrong. I'm gonna need you to check
7 games. That's it. It's only been 7 games, but those 7 games feel like they weigh so much more heavy than the other 50 something games if you take away 7. I'm not doing the math, but the point being, this lineup has really stunk, and a couple of guys that have struggled have been guys that the Reds have relied on before he got hurt. Both JJ Bleday and Nathaniel Lowe are struggling mightily, both hitting $167 in these 7 games. And our friend Eugenio Suarez has yet to take off. He has just 2 hits right now in 22 at-bats in these 7 games. He needs to get going because those 3 dudes are really falling down. And those are 3 guys, especially with where JJ Bleday was in the month of May and where they've put him in the lineup batting second. They need him to get back on track because this lineup has not absorbed the loss of Elly De La Cruz like we hoped.
You know who's not falling down in those 7 games, Jeff? You know who has finally decided to step it up and maybe having to play for his big league life has got
Dane
something
Myers.
to
He's
do
batting
with this.
444 right now.
That is
Dane
not
Myers
the
is
dude. The dude is Matty McBang, Matt McLain in the last 7 games, Jeff. 368, 455. Buckle your seatbelts. 947 in slugging, ladies and gentlemen. Matt McLain, the fact that he just openly acknowledged that he's in competition with Edwin Arroyo. He was asked about this, and his answer about competing with Arroyo is, yeah, we are competing, and we're teammates and we both want success for each other. But at the end of the day, yeah, we are competing against each other, and we're both trying to have big league jobs. I mean, I think maybe that's the element that's been missing. I think Matt McLain can feel that right over his shoulder is Edwin Arroyo looking to take his spot.
We said that after Elly hit the IL and they brought up Edwin Arroyo, we said, all right, Matt McLain's days are numbered. If he don't start going, he could be the guy sent down to AAA whenever Elly returns. And it looks like he got the message because everything's working right now. The plate discipline is so much better. The pitch recognition is so much better. And when he makes hard contact, because that was also something that he was not doing before this point. And so we're hoping that these 7 games can really translate into something, because in 7 games, he's been 7 for 18. He's got himself a nice little streak going, nice little bit of power, and that added confidence there of that at bat. And I forgot the name of the home plate umpire there, but man, that was just a hilarious win for Matt McLain to win 3 successful ABS challenges in 1 at bat and getting a walk out of it. Like that, they need to start creating like some sort of calculation of wins above replacement into these ABS challenges, because you affect games in that manner. And we've seen it with Tyler Stevenson getting balls reversed into strikes and walking off and things like that. But like that at bat would have been a strikeout, nothing doing. And then there he is on first base. Like that was beautiful for me to see him do that.
I imagine that's what at bats would have looked like if Angel Hernandez had stuck around for the ABS era. We would see. That's how we would see. Yeah,
he knew. He's like, oh no, I gotta go.
Way. Not a chance. Gotta go. My ride is here.
Yeah, check please. But as far as everybody else in the lineup, the only other guy that's really had a good 7 games is Blake Dunn. Blake Dunn has the most hits on the team in these last 7. He has 10 hits in the last 7 games, Steve. Like, just to add on to our talk about Blake Dunn there, Blake Dunn not walking, though. I would like to see that happen a little bit more. But we've not necessarily seen anybody else pick up the slack. And so that's going to be the hard part, because if we are continuing to see these games where they are just getting guys on base, and leaving them out there, it's just this losing streak will continue and this hole will get deeper. And I believe, by the way, that the Reds still have a run in them this season, like a nice little winning streak. But if they dig the hole deep enough, that winning streak will be to get them back to 500. And that's just not going to – it's definitely not going to put them in any sort of contention, especially looking at the month of September coming up. Like, they've got to be well ahead of the curve by the time September happens, as I just don't know that this team goes 500 in the month of September as currently constructed. There's a lot of things that got to flip, and the only guy that has really stepped up in Elly De La Cruz's absence has been Matt McLain. But let's finish out the show for a moment, like talking about this Elly thing, because he's jogging, and I feel like he did take a couple of days of rest and things like that, but like probably not what we were thinking. And they moved up the MRI timeline. Something tells me that MRI is going to be all right. Do you see him going on a rehab stint, or do you think they just activate him? Because they have been stressed with activating players.
They're just going to activate him. They're not. He hasn't been out long enough to warrant the risk of sending him to the minor leagues and have him in a game without the major league trainers and the medical staff and all the people to evaluate him. They're going to, if they decide he's healthy enough to play, he's playing in Cincinnati. I think maybe the Reds finally got one right in that in years past, they wouldn't have put him on the IL. They'd have sat him down for a day or two and just let him play. And I think that the abundance of caution IL stinted him, which is what you and I both said they should do. And to protect Elly from himself and to remove the temptation of them putting him in a game. I think that's why they did that. He's probably ready to go at this point. You know, he's chomping at the bit to get back in there. I imagine this MRI is going to be clean. They're going to activate him right after, and they're going to put him back in the lineup.
I think the minimum, because they put him on the 15-day, the minimum will be, they did put him on the 10-day. Well, then he'll be eligible to be activated if the MRI is clean, and he could play this weekend. Yeah, against Arizona. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, look, I think the hard part about all of this is there's still a little voice inside my head that's like, things can turn around. And I think that's just called being a Cincinnati sports fan, but things could turn around. There's got to be a lot of different stuff happen, though. We've kind of laid it out. Gino's got to turn around. Blake Dunn's got to be the leadoff hitter that we hope he can be. And we've got to see this team get better with runners in scoring position and get Elly back, because then the lineup can start to really help. The problem is the pitching. And we're really going to dive into that problem on tomorrow's episode, because there's definitely been super inconsistencies with the starting rotation that hopefully are starting to even out a little bit. Andrew Abbott did have a nice start, albeit he ends up getting the loss. That's only because his run support did not help him out, in my opinion, which is why I want to talk about a lot about the lineup today. But we will dive into the pitching matter of it all. I want to lay out, like, what does the bullpen look like moving forward? Because there was a good report for Emilio Pagan yesterday, but I don't know that fixes the bullpen. There's still plenty of incongruencies there. That's going to be on tomorrow's episode. So make sure that you subscribe, you follow us, and you don't miss anything that we've got coming for you. We're going to be here every single day talking Reds baseball, whether they win, lose, or get rained out, because we love talking about the Reds every single day with you. Now, make sure you go check out the Locked On MLB feed. We got 3 different shows talking about the league from 3 different angles, whether you're looking at Sully's point of view, Mike Stanton and Brett Chansey's point of view over at Back to the Bullpen, or Locked On MLB Game Night, covering every game, every night. And they had to wait for the Brewers and the A's to finally finish their game, because that took forever. Scored 29 total runs in that way. If you missed that one, go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They had a fun segment about that. All over on Locked On MLB, just like Locked On Reds, everywhere you get your podcasts. But as for me, Steve, and Tim Daniel over in the Locked On Reds postcast, we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
You buried the lead that Key Brian Hayes is learning to hit from the driveline, folks. That is going to save the season.
I don't see that.
I don't know why that wasn't segment 1.
I immediately thought that's a headline you hear in December, not in June.